What is up, my imagination connoisseurs? Welcome to this. It's Friday. It's Friday. I'm going to go downstairs, have my cereal. I'll make that choice like they did in Black Mirror's Bandersnatch episode. You actually get to choose which cereal our protagonist eats in the morning. But before I get there, I just want to say thank you guys all for participating in these live chats. They've been a lot of fun. I really like the back and forth of everybody. I seem to have been developing a community, which is great. And it doesn't involve an infectious disease, which is even better. So thank you guys all for being here and participating in these chats because it's fun. You know, I've missed being online with John Campea on our weekly hero show and daily on the John Campea show, which we will resume after the holidays. So that's where we're at now. And I just want to say thank you for joining me. And first of all, I got to talk about some things that are cool before I get to my main topic of this conversation. Things that are cool. Watership Down. Netflix is killing it with the genre programming. Watership Down is, of course, based on a famous novel that was later turned into an animated film in the 80s. There is a new, I believe it's a 4-part series on Netflix. I caught as I was waiting for Black Mirror to drop yesterday. I was able to watch the first episode. It's fantastic. The voice cast is great. It's a fantastic adaptation of the book. You can't go wrong with Watership Down. So it is animated, but the animation is beautiful. It looks interesting. I mean, it's obviously CG, but it looks like there's a lot of cell animation or hand animation involved in it. It's really, really great stuff. And then another thing that happened that's awesome is my girlfriend Elizabeth, her Christmas present arrived today for me. Now, I don't know if you guys know Toshin Books. Toshin Books is a very high-end art book. I mean, they publish a lot of books about pop culture, about art, about film. They've done some great film books, but they also produce very large, lavishly produced, very expensive coffee table books. And I want to say, I don't know if it was 15 years ago, 10 years ago, they started their archives collection. They've done archives, and the Stanley Kubrick archives were the first of these collections, and they are incredible. The artwork, the information in them, really, really just incredible stuff. And they've done one on the James Bond films. After Kubrick, they did one on Almodovar. They did a Charlie Chaplin one. They did one on Ingmar Bergman. Toshin Books did the Godfather family album. That's incredible, of all the behind the scenes photos about the Godfather. And they're not just chock-a-block full of beautiful photos, but they've got all kinds of behind the scenes information and notes and things that the filmmakers use. I mean, these are amazing books. Their James Bond archives were great, but they put out a book that probably will appeal to more people than any other Toshin book. And let me, I'm going to show it to you. I'm going to slide my microphone out so you can see it. The Star Wars Archives. You can see this book. It is hugely thick. It is ginormous. You open it up and it's, I mean, it's, I can't even talk about how incredible this book is. This book is, it weighs a ton. It must weigh 5 pounds. I mean, it's 10 pounds. I don't know. It's really, really heavy. It's really amazing. There's even, I wondered if they would deal with this in the book, but there's appendices. Hang on. There's appendices that deal with the holiday special, the Star Wars holiday special, the Droids and Ewoks cartoon series, and then the 2 Ewok movies, Caravan of Courage and Ewok Adventure. They're covered in here. This book covers episodes 4, 5, and 6, Star Wars, Empire, and Jedi. Not Star Wars Episode 4, New Hope. No, Star Wars, Empire, and Jedi. This book, when I saw that they were putting this out, I was salivating, and my girlfriend got it for me for Christmas. Now, I want to apologize to all of you because my geek tastes are extravagant and luxury branded geek tastes. But I promise you, when I get something, it's the best of the best. Not because I'm an elitist snob, because I'm not really, except when it comes to geek stuff. But I love Absolute Editions from DC. I love the Marvel Omnibuses. That's why I love Hot Toys figures. I just could never get this good stuff. They didn't make this good of stuff when I was a kid. And the stuff they make now, I mean, the unbuilt models I have here, the Eagle transporter, the Klingon Katinga class battle cruiser that came out in November. There's a lot of unbelievable geek material that's coming out, the best that we've ever received. And like that Star Wars book, I'm not going to lie, it's $200, but I think you can get it on Amazon for like 168 or something. Totally worth getting. It's an amazing book. You got to get it. As Ferris Bueller said, if you have the means, save up your shekels. Don't go out one Friday night. Just save your money. Don't buy any drinks, and buy the Star Wars archives. It'll sit in your lap and cut off your circulation. It's that heavy, but it's a great book. Anyone who loves Star Wars, and come on, who doesn't love Star Wars? I know there's been a million different Star Wars books. The Ralph McQuarrie set came out. I have the Art of Star Wars, all of them that have come out. There's a lot of great stuff in there, and there is a lot of repetitive material in the archives, but the way it's presented, and there's things in there that I have never seen before. It's just incredible. It's incredible to have. And if you start collecting these books, I mean, you could use them to build a house. You could stack them up and they would be a stable foundation for you. So highly recommend that book. But now let's get to the matter at hand. Black Mirror last night, well, at noon, actually today, so at midnight on December 28th, they dropped their what would be considered their fifth season, even though it's one. They call it a Black Mirror event, but there's actually over 300 minutes that comprises the whole thing. I think they said it was 312 minutes and 13 seconds of material. That's basically a whole season of television, 60 minutes. That's like what, 5 episodes, which is just shy of what they did for seasons 3 and 4. So Black Mirror's event Bandersnatch dropped last night. Now, what is Bandersnatch? Well, as rumored, it is a choose your own adventure movie. That's also about the making of a choose your own adventure game. The whole thing is set in 1984, so the music choices are unbelievable. There's so much. If you're an 80s junkie like I am, there's so much in this. I mean, one of the characters has a giant Akira mural on the wall from the manga of Tokyo blowing up. In that same room, you'll see a reference to Philip K. Dick's book Ubik. What they do to the cover of the New Order album Power, Corruption, and Lies from the early 80s is amazing. And I'll tell you, this show is chock-a-block full of 80s goodness. The music choices, there's even a choice. I'm gonna leave this review spoiler free, but I will say there are things. There's at one point a character has to pick between 2 record albums, and one is a Tangerine Dream record album, and one is a Tomita record album. And if you liked electronic synth sci-fi music when you were growing up, as I did, the fact that I had both of those albums, it was crazy. God love Charlie Brooker. Charlie Brooker, by the way, wrote the whole thing. And there's even a character that I think is probably loosely based on him, a television reviewer that reviews computer games. And even that is amazing, amazing stuff. It's very, very, that character's got to be Charlie Brooker was doing a little autobiographical Romana Clef about his own life and putting it into Bandersnatch. It's directed by David Slade, who directed 30 Days of Night, who directed a lot of incredible episodes of Hannibal. It's handsomely mounted. It's shot, the aspect ratio is widescreen. It's 235 or 239 if they shot it in 4K. It looks incredible. And now, what is the story about? Well, it's about a kid, a video game design, an aspiring video game designer in 1984, who's coming off the death of his mother, and he's deeply troubled. He has a horrible relationship with his father because he sort of blames his father for his mother's death, and he decides to create a video game based on a book called Bandersnatch, which is also a choose your own adventure game. And it leads you into the video game industry and of the time. And by the way, there's so many references to not only other Black Mirror episodes, but just the gamer culture of the mid 80s. The evocation, the detail in this is incredible. But the whole show, it becomes interactive. And here's what's the most astonishing thing, that at least to me, was the way it all works. There's no real lags in the interactivity. It happens instantaneously. There was a few times I could detect a little sound jump, but for the most part, it's seamless. So you're not waiting for things to happen. You're watching a dramatic movie unfolding in front of your eyes that you're also asked to make choices as you're going along, and those choices affect. It's so clever what they do, and I'm not going to get into. I'm not going to get into it, even when there isn't a choice. And it becomes, not only is the story about reality and free will, but the way it interacts between the viewer, meaning us, the viewers, and the characters, and it breaks the fourth wall in ways that I never saw coming and was delighted by. And you're what you're seeing, people, the technology that they had to come up with when Netflix went to Charlie Brooker with this idea. They had done interactive movies with like the Minecraft movie. So they've been developing this technology. And when they went to Charlie Brooker the first time to do this, and Annabelle Jones, the original creators of the show, they didn't have any interest. They're like, no, we don't want to do some kind of gimmicky thing. That's not what Black Mirror is about. Well, let me tell you, this might be the most blackest mirror of all the Black Mirror episodes. I don't mean dark, but I mean in terms of what it's really about, and the reflexivity between, or the self-reflexivity and the interactivity between you as a viewer watching a piece of drama, and how you interact then with characters on the screen, and it or don't, and then how they interact with what's going on in the framework of the show. I think when they write the history of streaming, and of our media landscape of today, this is going to be ground zero of, look, one day we're all going to be living in VR fantasy lands. I get it. Birth rates are going to plummet because we're never going to have sex with real people. Life is going to change. But they've been talking about interactive drama for decades now. Ever since we were reading our Choose Your Own Adventure books in the late 70s and early 80s. But this is the realization of what now is possible on Netflix. I can't imagine what creators are now going to be doing with these. The possibilities are endless. I mean, it didn't feel like a gimmick at all. It really was organic to the story being told, and the very act of what we were doing just played in to what it was all about. Now, a lot of people are gonna say, "Wow, Rob, it was kind of a quiet, small story. It's not Jon Snow fighting the Battle of the Bastards. It's not that. It is a quiet, small story about a kid." By the way, one of the actors from Dunkirk, Christopher Nolan's Dunkirk, and the cast is uniformly excellent. There is an actress, and I don't know her name. I think Alice somebody. She plays a psychiatrist who bears an uncanny. I swear to God, I thought she was Jenny Agutt's daughter from Logan's Run. She sounds like her, looks like her. I was very delighted by that. Turns out it's not her, at least I don't think, because Jenny Agutter didn't have kids till she was 40, and this actress was born in 1977. That's just an aside. But this was such an amazing experience. And the great thing is because it's got 300 minutes of material, you can go back and do it again and make different choices. And even the way that certain choices work and how they don't work plays again into the meta narrative that's going on, because it's not just the story that you're watching. It's as much a commentary on our world today and the viewership even of Netflix. And I hope everybody likes it because it's so clever. And once again, it's so well written. Genre television lives and dies. And look, not every Black Mirror episode has been genius. They haven't. Some of them have been redundant or half-baked sometimes. I mean, they're always interesting, but some are much better than others. This is a transcendent bit of television. Now, maybe I'm overselling it, but I don't think so. I think what's going on here is going to be looked upon and puzzled after. And, I can't wait to see what the future of this is. I'm sure this, whatever makes this possible. One of the things that Netflix did that made it possible was they had to figure out how you could buffer what people were watching. Everyone say hello to Gilbert. You had to buffer what you were watching so you could make those seamless choices. So there wasn't like a lag time where a black screen would come on and go, we'll see how your choice will affect the drama in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. There's an element of that, but it doesn't interfere with the story that's being told. You've always got video on the screen. There's always storytelling unfolding. And listen, when you watch this, you're gonna want like 3 or 4 hours to go through every choice. I haven't done that yet. I'm going to do that tonight, but I just want to see how it all works. And it's just fascinating. I mean, it truly is the beginning, the dawn of a new era of dramatic storytelling that's available in. I guess Netflix would be the first place. I'm sure everybody's going to be trying to jump on the Black Mirror bandwagon, but it's kind of fitting that Black Mirror was able to do this first. I mean, they would. Again, I haven't seen the Minecraft movie, so they adopted that technology, but there were questions that they had to figure out technically based on the way people watch Netflix and how they wanted Black Mirror to work, and they did a bang up job. So I love this not just for the storytelling and how it's just a great Black Mirror episode. I love this because it's game-changing technology, and I can't wait to see where it goes in the future. It's really astonishing, and everybody should be very excited. I'm excited because, again, I'm always saying on the Weekly Hero or the John Campy show, and I said that on Heroes, how great, if you're a geek, I think of us as living in the post-geek singularity. How Ray Kurzweil spoke about the coming singularity when we have sentient AI, whether it'll create Skynet that'll wipe us all off the planet Earth or not. I hope not. But the geek singularity has come. It has exploded. And what I mean by that, geek culture went mainstream. We're getting everything we love down the pike. And Black Mirror, Bandersnatch is just another example of the incredible genre entertainment that we are all getting these days. So everybody, I cannot recommend highly enough to go sit down and put some time aside and watch this show, because you're truly seeing something new. And I am so delighted by seeing this, and it's just really, really well done, and all of the 80s Easter eggs and all of that. Paul Aiden says that Bandersnatch was actually an unreleased game for the Spectrum computer in the mid-'80s. I didn't know that, which is, again, Bandersnatch is the name itself is an 80s reference. There's so much 80s computer lore goodness in here, even the designs of the games. Anybody who came of age in the 80s, that aspect of it is terrific, and you're going to love it. Autistic Kitten asks me, "Hey Rob, can you play music? You mean on my iTunes?" You know what? I took band for a while. I played the trumpet, but I realized I wanted to be Miles Davis, but I realized I'm never going to be Miles Davis. I probably would have wound up being somebody like, Herb Alpert. I could have joined the Tijuana Brass at some point, but I just didn't stick with it. I didn't stick with it. I was more interested in movie making. I mean, I look at the resurgence of John Carpenter's career now, where he's on tour with his son playing his soundtracks. It's great. All right, well, that's what I have to say about Bandersnatch. I'm going to go up and start answering your questions now until we run out of them. So I guess now it switches to the AMA portion of the show, and you don't even have to. It's not even a super chat thing yet. So no one says I love Black Mirror, but I haven't seen all of it yet, especially this new stuff. Well, it's okay. You don't have to. You don't even have to, even though there's lots of connections. Black Mirror, everyone wants to put it in some shared universe. That's fine. You don't need to have seen any other Black Mirror episodes at all. It's kind of like when I watched Torchwood Children of Earth. I had not seen any Torchwood episodes, and I loved Children of Earth. Get on Bandersnatch, but you need the time. Put aside the time. There goes Gilbert coming going. Victor Acosta says, post-geek singularity. You should copyright that and make it a show. Well, No, I think post-geek singularity. If I can coin that phrase, I would accept that. So all of you, whenever you refer to me online, when Robert Burnett talks about the post-geek singularity, yes, I think that was mine. I didn't hear that from somebody. I came up with it. I made it up myself. So thank you for that. I appreciate that. Rocky Persinger says Bandersnatch is a huge step forward for streaming services and interactive media in general. Absolutely. I'm glad you recognize that. I thought so too. What we're seeing is the dramatic. I can assure you that even today, even right at this moment, it's 1:20 Pacific Standard Time. People are out at lunch in Hollywood. I am sure whatever network executive, whoever runs the programming wing of Netflix, every single creator in Hollywood called today. They all got on that. Everybody and their brother. I do not want to be those development people, because every major, I'm sure J.J. Abrams and Bad Robot are the first people going, we got a show for you. We got a show for you. I can only imagine if you did Lost using this new technology, and I'm sure we'll be getting that, or some iteration of that. It is that exciting, and I'm sure Hollywood is going bananas right now. At least those are the people who are still at work, who are paying attention. Heck, I should be calling Netflix right now and pitching Free Enterprise 2 as an interactive show, just like Bandersnatch. Calvin Dexter says, it's so good to see you daily, Rob. Thanks for sharing all your knowledge about movies and TV shows. We have a lot to learn from you. I really thank you. I really appreciate that. I don't know about, all I'm here to do is share my enthusiasm for a lifelong love of all this stuff. I mean, I call myself an aging man-child only because my love of this material was ingrained in me at a very early age. When I was 5 years old, we went one summer to Seaside, Oregon from Seattle. I'm from Mercer Island, Washington, but we went from Seattle down to Seaside, and I had recently seen War of the Worlds as a 5-year-old, and I remember this vividly. My grandmother, who was very tolerant, I don't even know if they have Indian guides anymore, but my grandmother, who's very tolerant, listened to me for 3 hours, the time it took, probably 3.5 hours to go from Seattle to Seaside, listened to me recount the entirety of War of the Worlds on the car ride down. And now Indian Guides, which was a precursor to Cub Scouts, which now is probably politically incorrect or something. But my dad and I joined Indian Guides, and you would get an Indian name in Indian Guides. And my dad gave me the name Chief Running Mouth, because I could never shut up about all the stuff I love. My mother actually made me stop talking at the dinner table when I started going to elementary school. Because in elementary school, every time I learned something, I was excited by it, and I'd have to come home and explain over the dinner table to everyone, my sister, my mom, my dad, what I had learned today. And my mom put the kibosh on that very quickly. She didn't want to hear it. So thank you, Calvin, for saying that. I'm here to share all this knowledge, because where else is it going to go? If I get hit by a bus, all those moments will be lost in time, like tears in the rain. So that's what I'm here to do. Victor Acosta says, biggest problem with Dark Knight Rises was that it came out after the best movie in that particular trilogy. That happens to a lot of third movies in the trilogy, but I agree with you. I think The Dark Knight's a masterpiece. I actually love The Dark Knight Rises, but what I don't like about it is there's a lot of logic problems that you could drive the Batmobile right through. Hassan Chavez says the videos with you and the thumbnails have more views. Hassan, you're probably right about that. That's interesting. I have just started doing this. I've been on YouTube since 2015, but I never considered myself a YouTuber. But more and more people have asked me to do that. And I've this is the first time I've gone solo on YouTube, and it's fun. But I have to sort of figure out like how I'm going to do it. I'll tell you something sad. So I made my first episode of Robservations, and I've been making episodes of Robservations, and they require a lot of editing and a lot of technical work and sound mixing and all that. And I get very few views. Well, at least on the first one. I know it's about cosplay, but these get a lot more views. So I'm thinking to myself, well, hey, why don't I be like some of these other YouTubers who just talk? But I don't want to edit my videos like quickly. I call it Jeremy Johns style. I think it works great I love Jeremy Johns, by the way. I love watching his stuff. Or the Phil DeFranco show. He kind of pioneered that style. I call it millennial style. I don't want to do millennial style because that's not me, but maybe I will change that up. Uh, Nay asks, what's in the book? Well, you mean the Star Wars book? Just about everything. There's blueprints, matte paintings, production notes, illustrations, behind the scenes photographs. It's unbelievable. Unbelievable. Rocky Persinger asks, how do you spell the publisher's name? Oh, Taschen, Tachen. But I warn you, if you go down the Taschen rabbit hole, it's a lot like going down the Hot Toys rabbit hole. It's an endless rabbit hole that it will make your wallet and your bank account bleed. It's terrifying. Farky50 says, new specs, Rob. No, these are not. Actually, these specs, these are just readers. I've got like 8 copies of these cheap reading glasses all over the place. I've got them in next to my bed in the bathroom here when I'm editing because I don't have a real pair of glasses. I just buy these cheap ass reading glasses. These are in my stocking for Christmas. You know, the Jew boy that I am, I have a Christmas stocking, even it's green. And these were in there because I'm always either Gilbert eats them or somebody else takes them. So we always need readers around here. Victor Acosta says the holiday special. What holiday special, Rob? George said that it never happened. Come on, Victor. The Star Wars holiday special's out there. It's everywhere. It was the first appearance of Boba Fett, albeit an animated Boba Fett. But they cover that. And as far as I know, they never covered that in George Lucas he's not on the record. Well, he is now. Farky50 says, I have a few hardcover Art of Star Wars. I do too. I love that they included the script as well. Yeah, the first one did. And then I guess they did it later. Captain Robert April says, don't look now, Rob, but there's a blonde person knocking around the room behind you. Yes, that is Zoe Trope. Zoe Trope she's going to become a YouTube star. You'll learn all about her. She might show up as doing the millennial movie moment on Robservations soon. Pauline says Bandersnatch. Oh, I already said that. Bunch of Easter eggs to other Black Mirror episodes are scattered throughout the movie. MK Songbird says, yes, it's true. Gabriel Devox says, can I suggest some music? Always suggest music. Hey, Rob, favorite 80s arcade game that you played? Well, there are 2. Defender and later Stargate and Star Castle. But my favorite video game, it's a little bit more obscure, was a game called Scramble. It's a side-scrolling game. I loved Scramble. Vesna says, the show sounds so interesting. It's so interesting. You've got to watch it. Calvin Dexter says, Rob, have you read Paper Girls? Yes, I have read Paper Girls. I'm actually waiting to get the second hardcover. It's great. It would be a great TV show or a movie, Calvin. I don't know. I'm sure it will be. Nuzzleoid says, hey, yo, nice to catch you live. Greetings from Germany. Have a great night shift with you. Greetings from Germany. I'm a big fan of German video standards. If you guys know anything, if you're submitting something to Germany to come out on home video there, they have really strict standards of quality control, which I really appreciate and I love. That's why whenever you buy something, like I bought the original Battlestar Galactica series from Germany first because it had come out there before it had come out here. The Strange Days, I talked about this on my countdown of my favorite video releases of 2018. Strange Days, the Lightstorm movie Strange Days that stars Ray Fiennes and Angela Bassett, only came out on German Blu-ray. I bought The English Patient first on German Blu-ray. So, and Germany Revell released the only model of the JJ Prize from Into Darkness. You still can't get an American model kit of that ship. Not that anyone really wants one, but I needed to get one. Wait, I was just going to read that. Did I just skip down too far? I think I might have skipped down too far. I apologize. Wait, I didn't mean to do that. Sorry, let me catch up to these streams. I'm going to watch. Adrian Rivera says, I've gone through about 2 hours of it, and it's just mind-blowing how this actually works. Dude, you said it, man. Isn't it? It's just amazing because you've never played an interactive game or an interactive entertainment like this that works as well as it works. That's the amazing thing about it. Sharpshooter 7 says, Batman, the Telltale game is like that, and I think it's one of the few drawbacks of the game itself. Yeah, I know. Hey, Rob, have you played any Telltale games? I haven't. People keep telling me about Telltale games. It's just, between my work, my day job, which is actually I'm producing and editing the feature film Tango Shalom, which, by the way, I'm still getting in visual effects for. It's great. My friend Darren Dochterman did some visual effects for the film, and we were getting them in. Nay says Nosedive, the name of the game, which also refers back to, there's a game in Bandersnatch that's called Nosedive. I don't want to tell you. You guys got to discover Bandersnatch. Reese Williams said the 80s sounded like a great era to grow up in. I wish I could go back in time to experience it. It was great. You know what was great about the 80s? It was the confluence of pop culture. Everything was influencing everything else. Like, you couldn't, popular music was, the diversity of popular music was amazing. You got hair bands, Prince. I'm a huge Prince fanatic. You had American pop music down home like Springsteen. I really liked British techno, pop, and new wave, and all of those kinds of things. That's why I loved seeing some of the music that is in Bandersnatch, and to see New Order's Power, Corruption, and Lies album cover get some beautiful love in Bandersnatch. I'm a huge Duran Duran fan. I mean, I'm a total new romantic, new waver. That's why I love Frankie Goes to Hollywood. So yes. Shalabeast says, hey, Rob, I'm curious to hear your thoughts on Star Wars, The Last Jedi, and Solo. I really liked Last Jedi. Is it perfect? No. But what I liked about it was not what I expected. And it went places that I might not necessarily have gone, but it was really, I thought Luke's story was great in The Last Jedi, because it was completely unexpected, but it wasn't, if you really think about it. And the final confrontation with Kylo Ren is the most badass Jedi thing ever. If the Jedi's power is only for defense, never for attack, what is more Jedi? What is peak Jedi than not being at the actual battle that you're participating in? I love it. Keaton Carr 89 says, is that a Hot Toys George Lucas? Yes, it is. And next to George are the Bandai die-cast R2 and 3PO, which are two of the greatest Star Wars figures ever made. And what did I think of Solo? I liked Solo. I think it was a mistake to make a Solo movie a year and a half or 2 years after we'd seen the actual Harrison Ford Han Solo die, which, by the way, was stupid. The confrontation between Kylo Ren and Harrison Ford, I don't understand why people are mad at Last Jedi and aren't mad at how stupid The Force Awakens is overall. I liked Last Jedi way more than I liked the contrived, ridiculous, retro unoriginality of The Force Awakens. If that's controversial, so be it. Reese Williams said, do you collect Funko Pop vinyls? I don't collect. I only really collect Hot Toys figures and 6th scale bootleg movie character figures. I had to draw the line. I do have one, actually. I have a pop of Judd Nelson from the Breakfast Club who lords over me. He stands between my quarter scale Boba Fett's legs. So Nerfer 21 says, what is your favorite Vincent Price movie? Mine's The Raven. I think Theater of Blood is my favorite Vincent Price movie. That or The Abominable Dr. Phibes, probably. Have you had a chance to see The Night Comes for Us on Netflix? Oh my God. MK Songbird. Yes, I have seen The Night Comes for Us. Now, if you guys haven't seen The Night Comes for Us, oh my God, is it bonkers? There's a 3-way fight between 3 very, very deadly women. You got to watch this movie. It is hideously violent, just drenched in blood, and I loved every minute of it. It's Indonesian. So if you like what I like to call the Rad and the Rad 2, even Radder, which is really the Raid and the Raid 2 Barandal, if you like those movies, watch The Night Comes for Us. Man. Yeah, you should check that out. Reese Williams, what's your favorite cult movie you enjoy watching time after time, no matter how many times you've watched it? Oh my God, there's so many movies like that. Some are good, some are bad, like Star Crash. I love Star Crash, even though I don't think it's a bad movie. But when Mystery Science Theater 3000 did it, I was very upset that they did Star Crash. But I was upset when they did Danger Diabolic and This Island Earth 2. But there's so many cult movies. I can't even begin. You know what one of my favorite cult movies of all time is? And it's a cult movie in the United States and the rest of the world. And a lot of people don't know it. With Nail and I. That stars one of the American Doctor Who, Paul McGann, but he's been in a lot of radio shows, and the great Richard E. Grant turning in one of the great performances of all time. Now, it's a movie about drinking and being a lowlife, and a lot of Americans, I've tried to show it to people, and people are like, what is this movie? I could watch With Nail and I all day, every day. Love it. Farky50 says, Rob, filmmaking question. I have a lot of ideas, and I made some story points and art, but I want to try and develop a script or a pitch. Any good sources available or encouragement? I'm looking at film school. Well, there's a lot of great film schools around. You know, I'll tell you, the school that I've met more people in the industry from than any other school is Emerson, which is a school I don't know a lot about. But Emerson, I've run into more alumni from Emerson. I mean, the thing is, people at USC didn't get into film production as much, even though I did go to school and John Singleton was there and Bryan Singer was there and James Gray was there. But Emerson seems to be a school where there's a lot of working people. I've met a lot of people on sets from Emerson. So check that out. Dan V900 says Bandersnatch has more in common with the Telltale game like The Walking Dead, where the end of the second season actually had multiple endings. It's a giant leap for streaming and TV in general. I agree. Paul says the hot toy is named The Director. Yes, you are correct. And that was the very first hot toy I ever got. And I did throw the box away. Sorry. Calvin Dexter says, Robert, you're the man. Keep up the amazing work. Thank you. I appreciate that. Reese Williams says Jeremy Johns is awesome. He is awesome. And I lost a bet to him, and I owe him the hot toy of Hoth Leia. He probably already bought it because he moved back to Seattle. So Victor Acosta says he keeps pestering me about Spider-Verse. I haven't seen it yet. I know it's terrible. I should be seeing it right now instead of talking to you guys, but I have work to do. There's a fairly good first-generation VHS copy of the holiday special on YouTube, says Captain Robert Abel. Yes, I also, too, have a Blu-ray of it, a Blu-ray burn of it. Sharpshooter 07 says, could Kerry Russell be a Knight of Ren on the good side in episode 9? I don't know. I love Kerry Russell. Here's a little bit of trivia. None of you know. Kerry Russell originally read for Brandon Routh's screen test for Superman Returns as Lois Lane. I got to know Kate Bosworth on the set of on the set of Superman Returns as Lois Lane we were down there in Sydney for a year. She even gave me a parting gift. But Kerry Russell was great. I love Kerry Russell, and in person, she's one of the most beautiful women I've ever seen in person. I mean, she looks good on camera, but there's something about her presence that was amazing. Stanislaw Karolak says, I'm watching you and I would like to live in your country. Well, Stanislaw, I love your name, by the way, because Stanislaw Lem, the great science fiction writer from Poland, one of my favorite writers, you should immigrate before they close our borders. Our southern border, our president is threatening to actually close the southern border entirely if he doesn't get to build a wall. I mean, that's like, what do we live in? The movie Doomsday? Nay, 80s punk. Nay says 80s punk. I love 80s punk. One of the great 80s punk rock movies of all time is The Decline and Fall of Western Civilization. If you like a movie, there's a movie called Suburbia. There's, of course, Repo Man, some great 80s punk. Victor Acosta says the 80s was summed up in one word, excess. Probably. Vesna says, I would never love to live in the virtual reality age. Call me old-fashioned, but I love things that I can actually touch. I'm with you on that. I like things I can touch too. But I think Living Color, Cult of Personality, Sharpshooter says 07. Living Color is a band. It's also a TV show, but it's a band, and it's awesome. I love Living Color. I actually follow one of the band members of Living Color on Twitter. Mic drop. S Book says, how many Star Wars sex dolls you have? Dude, if I had Star Wars sex dolls, I wouldn't use them for sex dolls because they wouldn't be in mint condition anymore. So there you go. S Holbrook says, where'd you get those glasses from? Elton John? No, they cost like $3. Let's see. Elton John wants his glasses back. Lou says the recent Vestron Video Blu-ray special edition of Maximum Overdrive is fantastic. Yes, my friend Dustin Dean has been working there at Lionsgate on putting those Vestron video releases out. I should have picked one for my list for 2018, but I didn't. The last one I actually watched was their Return of the Living Dead 3 disc, which I really, really dug. Let's see. Do I have a P.O. box for fan art? I don't have a P.O. I never thought of getting one. Do I need that? If you want, you can contact me via email or DM me on Twitter, and I could hook you up with that. S.H. book says Spider-Verse sucks. S, buddy. No positivity from you today. What do you like? What's some of your favorite stuff? Hook us up. Tell us what your favorite movie is, or some of your favorite movies, favorite comics, favorite video games. What do you dig? Rob, may I ask what you have framed up behind your Jack Skellington? Yes, that is a mini poster, actually, for the Sitges Film Festival in Spain, which is about 20 kilometers outside of Barcelona. It's one of my favorite film festivals in the world. I'd go every year if I can. The last time I went was in 2011, when a couple of episodes of a show called Femme Fatales that I directed played in Sitges. But that's from the Sitges 98 Film Festival, where my film Free Enterprise, that I wrote and directed, that famously stars William Shatner and Eric McCormack, debuted. It had its world premiere at the Sitges Film Festival, which is where I wanted it to go. Here I made this movie, and it was about geeks, sort of a lost geek classic. I'm trying to get the money to buy the negative back and put it out in 4K for its 20th anniversary. Trying that. Reese Williams says, thoughts on Mission Impossible Fallout. For me, it's my top 3 movies of 2018. Absolutely. With Infinity War. I wasn't so big on Ready Player One. I know people loved it. It was fine. I love seeing the Gundam in it and the Shining sequence, but I wasn't a big fan of the book either. No offense, but it was fine. To me, if you want to read the ultimate book about gaming, is still the seminal 1990 Neil Stephenson novel Snow Crash. To me, Snow Crash there's been other virtual reality things, but still the end all be all. One of the most entertaining books I have ever read was Neil Stephenson's Snow Crash. Get it, love it. The name of the main character literally is hero protagonist, Hiro. It's great. You'll never forget wanting to order a pizza from Uncle Enzo's Cosa Nostra Pizza. And if you don't get it delivered in 30 minutes, the delivery boy girl gets killed. It's great. John Doe says, Free Enterprise is now on Amazon Prime. I enjoyed another viewing today. Thanks for giving us that film. I have mixed feelings about it being on Amazon Prime. It's in 4:3, first of all. It's a really old transfer of the movie. It's not my preferred cut of the movie. And the Anchor Bay DVD that was released in 2006 is better. But I'm going to Oliver Stone it, and like what he did with Alexander, or what Ridley Scott did with Blade Runner, I'm going to make the ultimate edition of Free Enterprise. Although I worry, because in our #MeToo days, there's a lot of misogyny that's rampant in Free Enterprise that I don't know if a lot of people would dig, but I wouldn't cut it out. Dan V900 says, you can't say that something sucks without providing reasons why. I agree. Anyone who says something sucks, well, that's not helpful. Why? Why does something suck? How can you call a movie that somebody worked on for 2 years, thousands of people worked on for 2 years, and just sum it up by saying something sucks? I've always hated when people say that, because they have nothing to say. Their opinion, to me, when you say something sucks, you invalidate your own opinion for anyone, because then no one's going to take anything you say seriously. You have to explain why. Why does something suck? And give a cogent, reasoned, impassioned explanation, and I'll listen to you. But just by saying, it sucks, well, click, delete. Let's see. Victor Costa says, do you share Campy's opinion about X-Men being better off apart from the MCU? I don't. As many of you know, I've been friends with Bryan Singer for the better part of 30 years. I was tickled to death when he took over as the director on X-Men. Got the job. And I really liked the first X-Men, and I really liked X-Men 2. And I think X-Men went a long way toward, Kevin Feige worked on those X-Men movies, and it went a long way toward what we now have as the MCU. And they've been a real mixed bag, but for the most part, I enjoy the X-Men movies. I would like to see them incorporated into the MCU, because it'll be a totally new, fresh take on the X-Men, which I think we need. What's not to love? Vesna asks, what are my top 10 best movies of the year? I can't answer that, because I've been watching screeners, and I'm I'll probably come back and do a chat next week, and I'll answer that question. Mass Consumption says, what do you think of the overall Halo universe? You know what? I've only ever played the games. I'm a big fan of Master Chief. Great games, but I was never really sucked into the extended universe of Halo. Not because I didn't want to be, but to me it was sort of, I liked that it existed as a video game. Schlabist, I gotta get these names right. Rob, a while back on Heroes, you talked about a film called Fantastic Planet, and I wanted to thank you for bringing it to my attention. I loved it, by the way. Good for you. I'm glad you watch it. Fantastic Planet it was a movie made by a Frenchman named René Laloux. It is one of my favorite science fiction films ever made. Criterion released it domestically on Blu-ray. Eureka released it in the UK on Blu-ray. It is a fantastic, fantastic movie about a human civilization that lives on. There's sort of humans are enslaved. They're called ohms, and they're enslaved by the drogs, these giant, huge, like 50-foot tall aliens. And it's a movie about oppression and about resistance, and it's one of my favorite science fiction films of all time. So awesome. Nay says, do you believe the rumors about Endgame? Nay, I do not. There's so many rumors about Endgame, but here's the thing I've always thought funny about. I've stopped paying attention to rumors and spoilers and sequels, because here's the thing: the movie's already done. I mean, it's not entirely done. They still have to probably record the score and finish the visual effects. But the rumor that to think about rumors about what a movie's about, it's already been written. It's already finished. Those rumors, they're either going to be somewhat right. I like kind of hearing about them and reading them, and there's all kinds of things going on. The only thing about Endgame, this is the only thing that I believe in. Kevin Feige has said many times that one of the inspirations for Infinity War and Endgame, and after seeing Infinity War, mostly about Endgame, is it was inspired by the final episode of The Next Generation, All Good Things, which takes place in 3 different time periods, where Captain Picard is trying to prevent something from happening in all 3 of those time periods. And I'm like, aha. So I think we're going to see something in Endgame that's very similar to that idea. Probably more than one person, but we'll see. Hassan Chavez says, speaking of Me Too, did you see that Kevin Spacey video? I did. Welcome back, Frank. What a crazy, creepy video. Really strange. I don't even know what to make of that. Although I will say this, that took some balls of steel. But yeah, wow. Crazy. Victor Acosta says, even if something sucked for you, it might be awesome for someone else, because that is the beauty of the subjectivity of film. Be right back to have to go can't be as royalties. Can't be as... Yes. You know what, though? I'll tell you something. Again, I don't believe entirely in the subjectivity of film. I do believe in people's inability to recognize film greatness. Like I talked about on my Best of 2018, there's a lot of people that can't get through a Tarkovsky movie. There's people who will turn off movies because they're black and white. I can't hang with that. I mean, that's not the problem of the film. That's your problem. And here's the thing, there are movies that aren't very good, admittedly. But you're better off giving a movie or giving any piece of artwork or anything was created, for the most part. There are times when I don't believe in this, but of giving something the benefit of the doubt. And if you come to see a classic movie, like watch Double Indemnity. It's a black and white film made in the 40s. I think it was made in the 40s. It's incredible. And if you were to just turn it off because it's in black and white, that movie's old, it sucked. You are depriving yourself of an incredible experience, an incredible time at the film. I'll tell you a story. When I was at USC, they have a Cinema 190, sort of your introductory film class. And it was taught back then by a guy named Drew Casper, who I still think is there. And he would show, I talked about this the other day, he would show movies that I had never seen before. I had never seen All About Eve. I'd heard about it. I'd seen pictures about it from it. It won the best picture in 1950. It just, I knew nothing about it other than things I had seen, even though Betty Davis is in it as Ann Baxter, incredible cast. I was like, I had never any interest in seeing this movie until I was at USC. I was blown away. I sat in the theater, and it is not only is it one of my favorite films of all time, it's also got probably the best screenplay ever written. Now, I was open to it, but when I saw it, it's got one of the great, horrible villainesses in all of film history. And it's all about the theater. It's all about working in the theater in New York City. I love this movie, and it was a movie that I resisted watching just because I was like, no interest. And then when I finally sat down and watched it, I was blown away. And I'll tell you something that happened to me. So I saw this movie at USC. There's a big movie theater called Norris. It's like a big movie theater where you watch movies. And as the movie was over, I just sat in my seat. I was stunned. And I was just looking at the screen, thinking about it. And I was the only person left in the theater. People couldn't have gotten out of that. I was a senior at the time, but the freshman students, they couldn't have left that theater fast enough. And Drew Casper, my teacher, was down in the corner at his podium, and he was just looking at me nodding like, yeah, you get it. So I thought that was pretty cool. Lou says, have you seen the Jodorowsky Dune documentary? Fascinating. I thought it was great. I hope Toshin Books puts out the Jodorowsky Dune book. I really want to get that. Let's see. Nay, I've seen Stalker by Tarkovsky. Really enjoyed it. Nay says that. That's good. Thank you. Captain April says, I think Spacey is feeling more than a little betrayed by those he considered friends who promptly threw him under the bus at the first accusation. I agree. I agree with that. You know, we're now living in an age where people are guilty as soon as somebody accuses them, and it's really frightening. Between the right speak that we're all forced, like if you say one wrong thing, if I say one wrong thing on this podcast, I could get deplatformed by YouTube. So you never know. We live in like I've always said, the right wing doesn't scare me because you see them coming, neo-Nazis, National Socialists, you'd see them coming a mile away. It's the left wing, the people that I would normally consider to be on my side, that are really starting to scare me. Because if anybody looked at my Amazon purchasing list or went into my library or looked at how many movies I had, the left wing would be the ones going, you are thinking wrong. You have lots of material there that is damaging or triggering, and we should take you away. Which they probably would. I mean, some of my favorite films, like A Clockwork Orange, I talked about it before. I could see somebody getting triggered and saying, wait, that movie shouldn't exist. It's all about, it doesn't take my trauma into account. Yeah, I know. Scary. That's kind of the point. I have not seen Into the Spider-Verse yet. Dan V90 says, all I want to see is Kang in the movie where he's the next big bad. I think, if I had to venture a guess, I think Kang might be in Endgame. Because wouldn't that be cool if there's time travel involved? You've got Kang the Conqueror. That would be good to me. Once again, Gilbert knows I'm on talking. He's barking. Can we call the community the post-geek singularity? Any of you guys with me? I agree with you, Victor. Call the community. This community? Yes, I want anybody that watches Robservations from now on. We call our community the post-geek singularity community, but the community should be defined by the fact. This should be the overarching thing about the post-geek singularity community. The ethos of this community is that every person that you meet has a story to tell that you haven't heard. So you have to listen, or you just have to listen, however you want it to go. Dan says, seeing a version of the Kang Dynasty on the big screen would be epic. It would be. Lucas Kendall says, I produced CDs of All About Eve and Double Indemnity. I did not know that, Lucas. I did not know. I mentioned both of these things. Lucas Kendall, for those of you who don't know, the great Lucas Kendall, when he was in high school, he started a newsletter about film scores that he later turned into a magazine called Film Score Monthly, that he later turned into a record label, and he published some of the greatest soundtrack CDs ever in the world, ever. He was also responsible for publishing a book on the making of Star Trek: The Motion Picture, which is also equally amazing. And he produced a movie called Lucky Bastard. And we together are currently working on a sci-fi short called Skyfighter that is a proof of concept for a feature that he wrote, an excellent feature that he wrote. And yesterday he sent me something that I'm not going to talk about that is very interesting and very, let's just say it hits a little too close to home. Vesna says, I'm so glad I loved All About Eve. I also loved it. Yes, it's so good. And yeah. Victor Costa says, would Stark be Picard in Endgame? That would be my guess, unless someone else is, although I don't know who that is. Robert April says, I'm waiting for them to come after Blazing Saddles. Oh, I'm sure they will. It's really frightening to me how things that were said or made years and years ago, when people are going after them, saying, "Oh, this isn't appropriate anymore. We can't watch Gone with the Wind because it's about the antebellum South," as if the antebellum South didn't exist. Life is hard. History was a long-running charnel house of horrors that man perpetrated against fellow men. First of all, you know what? Right now, as people talk about, Steven Pinker writes about this in his book, The Age of Enlightenment, we live, as I've said before, in the best time that humanity has ever lived in. For all of the strife that we have going on, there is more inclusivity, there is more opportunity, there is more than there's ever been in the entirety of human history, especially in the West, especially here in Western civilization. And why everybody's angry all the time, I don't understand. And it's getting better every day, despite what social media would have you believe. Yeah, it's very frustrating. Dan V90 says, Revenge of the Nerds would not be made today in the current landscape, and the only movie I can think of where a gender flip reboot would work. 16 Candles would be crushed too. I agree. I completely agree. I've had my own brush with the thought police last year, and it was not good. Nay, do you have any hope for the Picard series? I don't know. I hope so. Hope springs eternal. Part of being the post-geek singularity, part of being in the community of the post-geek singularity is to have hope. Get excited for everything until you see it. I'm a huge James Bond fanatic. I love James Bond. There have been many times when I've been disappointed by James Bond movies, but I still like the James Bond franchise. That's why I don't understand all this hate for The Last Jedi. Maybe Episode 9 will be better. At least they're making Star Wars movies. Do you have the CDs? Oh, Lou says, do you have the CD soundtrack set for the original Star Trek episodes? Let me tell you, that is the single greatest CD set that has ever been released in the history of the CD format. Actually, in the history of mankind. Some people might say George Schulte's version of the Planets from 1963 or 4 on Deutsche Grammophon is one of the great. No, the original series box set on CD that La La Land Records released, that Lucas Kendall produced, was one of the producers on, is the single greatest CD set of all time. Full stop. Dan V90 says that HBO Confederate series is basically dead, and that was such an interesting idea where it wasn't original with multiple civil wars. You know what? Alternate histories are all the rage in sci-fi circles and have been for decades. And I thought a Confederacy series was really awesome. I mean, why is it okay? I don't think a Confederacy series would come out on the side that slavery is good. I think as the best science fiction does, it uses speculative fiction to reflect back on our lives as human beings and make us consider things that we might not consider in our real lives because they trigger us. But in the confines of a science fiction, fantasy, or horror context, we're able to more easily consider things that would normally make us angry, which is what the original Star Trek series, what the original Outer Limits, what the original Twilight Zone especially was all about. It's all allegorical. Reese Williams asks, favorite Bond actor in film? Well, I have to say Sean Connery is my favorite Bond actor. And my favorite film, it's tough. I think From Russia with Love is the purest iteration of an Ian Fleming novel. But I love all the Bond movies, but the ones I love the most, From Russia with Love, I'll go in order of their release. From Russia with Love, Goldfinger, Thunderball, You Only Live Twice doesn't hold up really well for me. On Her Majesty's Secret Service, which might be my favorite Bond movie. The Spy Who Loved Me, I'm a Moonraker apologist. The Living Daylights, GoldenEye, Tomorrow Never Dies, World Is Not Enough, and Casino Royale. I'm not a huge fan of Skyfall. I know people, and Spectre, what a disappointment. I wish I could visit a parallel universe where Pink Floyd did the score for the Blade Runner film or any sci-fi film, to be honest. Ryan G. the Mang. Ryan G. the Mang. I love that. Me too. That would be awesome. Dan says, I don't understand how people are fine with the man in the high castle since Nazis are in control of the East Coast and then thought the Confederacy was wrong where slavery would exist. Clearly it's bad. That's exactly right. You know, I don't know. I was raised as a Jew, but I don't have a problem reading speculative fiction where the Nazis won World War II. That's something that I've thought about ever since I was a little kid. I don't think it's wrong to then wonder about what happened if the Confederacy won the Civil War. What would America look like? Because that helps us have those things not happen again. Let's see. Lucas Kendall says, because High Castle was made by Jews and the Confederacy was not going to be made by black filmmakers, but there were black filmmakers involved. And I think once you're outside and removed from a certain time, everybody, speculative fiction is for everyone. It's not just, I don't think that even writing a novel, you write a historical novel. If you didn't live through that time, do you have to be a person of that time? You can't do research and come up with your own ideas about it, I guess. Favorites. Lou asked my favorite sci-fi novel. That's rough. I mean, I've had favorite sci-fi. This is going to be the last question, guys. This is the last question I'm going to answer because I have to go. My favorite sci-fi novels have changed through the years as I read them. When I was a kid, when I was 9 years old, John Christopher's Tripods trilogy, and there's a fourth book which I've never read, but The White Mountains, The City of Golden Lead, The Pool of Fire were my favorite books. Then I read like Heinlein's Stranger in a Strange Land, and I read Dune became a favorite. It's still one of my favorite science fiction novels of all time. Alfred Bester's The Star's My Destination. Was it Bester? I love Dan Simmons' Hyperion Cantos, Hyperion and Fall of Hyperion. I love Neil Stephenson's, as I said earlier, Snow Crash. I mean, there's so many books. Arthur C. Clarke's, all of his 2001 books I really liked. They weren't favorite books of mine. I really like a Canadian science fiction writer named Robert Charles Wilson now. I really like Stephen Baxter. He wrote a sequel to H.G. Wells' The Time Machine called The Time Ships I love. But I love his his space trilogy. Manifold Space, Manifold Time, and Manifold Origin. I love that stuff. Well, anyway, guys, I am going to go away now. Thanks for joining. I appreciate the fact that this is now going to be the post-geek singularity community hosted by Robservations, with me, of course, as your supreme leader, Robert Meyer Burnett, bringing the joy of the genre to you. So I will talk with you all later, and thanks for joining. Subscribe, tell your friends, share these conversations around with everyone, because I need your support, need your subscriptions, need anything you can do. Let's keep this discussion going. All right. Talk to you soon.